Welcome to Up on Game presents Taylor Scouting. Coach Randy Taylor is bringing his 40-plus years of knowledge to you. This is Taylor Scouting. And now, here's Coach Randy Taylor.
So this is Coach Randy Taylor. They call me Coach Taylor, and we're at the Up on Game Network Taylor Scouting Podcast. We're here every week. We're going to talk about education. I'm a longtime football guy, 40-plus years in college football, evaluating, coaching, coordinating, recruiting. We're going to educate, teach prospects, parents, high school coaches, some college coaches, and some fans. And I am so lucky to be here with one of my favorite ball coaches that I've known quite some time, Coach Rollinson. Coach Rollinson, welcome.
How you doing, Randy? It's great to see you today. Thanks for having me on.
You got it, brother. We're going to try not to put too much pressure on your voice. And
my voice will be fine. My voice will be fine.
I know it will. It has been for years. 34 years as a head coach. And Coach Rollinson has compiled a record of 341 wins, 87 losses, and 2 ties. He's coached 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Matt Leinart and Bryce Young, along with hundreds of college football players. His teams have been to the CIF Finals 14 times, winning 7 CIF Championships, 3 state titles in California, and capturing the national championship in 1994, 96, 2017, 2018, and 2021. And that is at Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana, California. Coach, let me read something that I think sums you up, okay? I don't want to, blow too much smoke up your dress, but as they say. So here's a quote about Coach Rollinson. Coach Rollinson's vision in leading the program is to prepare athletes for their futures on the field, in the classroom, and as young adults. High school and football not only serve as learning experiences and opportunities to improve, they should also create enjoyable and memorable moments for each athlete. Coach is proud of each young man who plays for Mater Dei. Coach Rollinson's motto is, you create the effort, God controls the outcome. How true that is. He demands top effort from his players, his coaches, and himself. And I just read that. I'm not sure that was perfect, but we got through it. The thing also, Coach, is I know you're proud of, you're the parent of 2 Mater Dei graduates and 8 future Monarch grandchildren.
There you go.
You got it, baby. So my interaction with Coach, and then we're going to get into the meat of this. And I know that you've been around forever, and Coach, you have been somebody that I've admired and respected. I think you have always helped me in every opportunity to pursue the information about your players, to show me which players I should be looking at. You gave me access to your program in for many years, and as a coach, recruiting coordinator, and an evaluator for college coaches. And I just want to thank you for all that access. You have always had the kids' interest at heart. And that's what I wanted to be sure everybody knew. And you allowed me to help them go to the next level. So I want to thank you, Coach. Let's do this. Let's start out with an easy one about Bryce Young. Okay. Bryce, so can we start with Bryce, his path to becoming the #1 draft pick in the recent NFL draft? What makes him so special, Coach?
Well, I don't want to say too much after that introduction. We could just wrap it up and feel good about the old ball coach here. And you know
how I feel.
Well, before you talk about Bryce, I've always believed there's a group of us, some media guys, scouts, college coaches, that they're in it for the kids, and that's the most important thing. We're there to develop young men, and give them the possibility of a college scholarship. You and I know they're all not going to get one. In my case, then, I had a responsibility to make high school football enjoyable, and that was always my goal. And winning makes it a lot more enjoyable, and that's what we built. But I love talking about Bryce Young. I love it. I did a multitude of interviews leading up to the draft, and I did 3 or 4 here this week post draft, and complimenting and carrying on about that great young man. Here's the key. Okay, I think Bryce Young had a plan. The family had a plan for his development, and fortunately, because of an opportunity that came up when JT Daniels, as a junior, decides to reclassify, whole different subject there, but he's not going to play his senior year. And I'm going, well, this isn't good. You build your program from the freshman up, and I knew there was going to be a void. I also knew we had a heck of a football team coming back, and Bryce became available. They followed the rules. They changed residents, and next thing you know, I've got this prodigy coming in to take the place of a kid that just went 15-0 and is the Gatorade National Player of the Year. Tremendous pressure on Bryce Young. He comes in as a second semester sophomore, and I'm going to get out in front of it. He is going to be the first Black quarterback that we have in the program's history. The pressure, it was built into it with the transfer. And we went through spring, we went through the off-season workouts, and in California, as you know, you can't have padded spring practices. And I've always told this story. I'm watching this kid and I'm going, wow, you knew you had something special. And we were early in the summer practices, and I'm listening to the coaches. The line coach is saying, "Oh, Bryce, you got to step up in the pocket on this protection. You got to slide a little to your right." And the back coach is saying, "No, this." And after practice, early in the summer, I brought the offensive staff together and I said, "Okay, here's the deal. Nobody coaches Bryce Young, including me. I don't care what he does, because whatever he does is going to be right. When he breaks out of the pocket, whether the pocket was good or not, magic happens." And I said, why don't we just ride the magic and take another championship as we approach the upcoming season? And that's what this kid was capable of doing. His mobility, basically, Randy, in high school, I had a tailback who had $1 million arm, and his evasiveness, his ability to create, find receivers open. But again, you go back to the pressure, and we're going to play IMG in the 4th game of the year. Everybody's still, oh, Bryce Young, and we miss JT Daniels. And then we play IMG. We got $1:34 on the clock. We're down by 4. We get the ball on the 11-yard line. And I'm standing there going, all right, we got a shot at this. And here comes this junior, Bryce Young, running by me. He gives me a thumbs up and says, "We got this, coach." And I go, all right, let's see what you got, big boy. He goes 6 for 6, 2 of them, his magic. I don't know how he got out of the rush, found open receivers, one of those on a 4th and 9. And the next thing you know, we run a zone keep down on the goal line. He rode the thing about 2 miles into the line of scrimmage, pulls it at the last second. The rest is history. This is the kind of athlete you're dealing with. And I knew when he went to college, which was difficult because he was signed, sealed, and delivered to USC. You had the chaos of the USC, the turmoil of firing a coach. No coach has been announced. They come and they say, what do we do? We're thinking about going to Alabama. And I said, you got to do it. I mean, I'm an alumnus of USC. I've had nothing but players go through USC and many other colleges. But he goes to Alabama, and I'm telling you, I sat on the couch the night he was playing Auburn, if you remember the game. And it was a similar IMG situation. I looked at my wife and she goes, what do you think? And I go, he's going to take him straight down the field and win this game. That's what he does. He's going to do the same thing in pro football, Randy, because this whole thing has been built for the next moment. There's been a plan. Craig and Julie instrumented a plan. It's one of the closest families. Craig is a mentor of mine, a psychologist. I picked his brain constantly. And the last thing I'll say about Bryce, I had many conversations with Bryce Young, both as a high school and beyond. And we didn't talk a lot of football. This kid is deep, and he's all about self-confidence and believing in himself. So, yeah, did I know he was going in the first round? Yes. Did I think he would be the first round draft choice? Of course I did. Was I worried about his height? Absolutely not. Mark my words, okay? Everybody will be going, well, he's going to be the next great one.
Yeah, Coach, I think you're right on. I think most people agree with you. What I was wondering, as you're talking about Bryce, have you had any? You've had a whole bunch of really good players and good kids that have come through. Have you had any other kids at any position that you've just said, hey, this kid is special, he has the instincts, let him play?
I mean, come on, Randy. I've had so many great players. Starting with Danny O'Neill in 1989. They were going to transfer out because Mater Dei hires this guy named Coach Rollinson with no head coaching experience. And I met with the O'Neills and I said, look, I know what I'm doing. I've run an offense at the community college level for the last 7 years. Your son will be showcased. And I watched Danny O'Neill when I took over, and I go, whoa, look at this guy. I mean, he could fire it. Think about this, Randy. You know this, okay? In 34 years, every one of our quarterbacks, except for 1 year, got a Division I scholarship. You got the 2 Heisman Trophy winners. Here's the difference, Randy. When you look at a quarterback, we've had great ones, and a lot of them have left the high school. The difference is, do they want to make the commitment to be great? And what does that mean? That means in January, you're with the offensive coordinator and you're breaking down film and you're going over concepts twice a week in January, 3 times a week in March. Okay. In February, in March, it's now 5 days a week. Every one of your lunch hours is with the coordinator. A lot of kids can throw from here to the next city, but are they committed to be great? Will they dive into the potential of the offense that you have? That's what separates in the quarterback position. I could start naming off other positions, look at David Bailey that's up at Stanford. The minute he stepped foot on the field as a freshman, I go, whoa, this is a special kid. Raleek Brown. Mike McNair, go back to the 90s, 6'2", 225 pounds, and runs a 10.5, 200 meters. I think, that's easy. Hand the ball to Mike and watch him go. And offensive linemen, Randy, you know the great ones, from Tommy Brown and that group in 2017, 5 kids with Division I scholarships, all the way back to Lenny Vandermeer and those guys in the 90s. And then last thing I'll say, just Mater Dei's defenses. We're going to win with defense. That's the way this old ball coach did it. The offense is there to put on the show, win it on D.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate that, and I don't want to miss a couple other kids that are going to go play some pro football out of that group.
Yeah.
Nico Remigio to Kansas City from San Jose State, and Chris Murray to Tampa Bay from Oklahoma. So you had some other kids we don't want to skip out of Bryce's class. So
no, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm proud of both of those young men. And I guarantee you, I follow the Detroit Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And people forget Matt Barkley is still a backup quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. I think he's in his 11th or 12th year with one pro organization or another. And he's heating it up again to go back and play. And I'm proud of the college football players. I love it on Saturdays. I can turn on any channel and go, oh, I forgot he's at Kansas State or wherever. It's kind of fun, brother.
Yeah, it really is to see those kids you've touched and they've come from your organization, your program, and it leads me into a lot of there's building a program is one thing. You kind of reload or not reload. I guess I should say you reload and not rebuild. How does that happen? Give us a brief history of that.
When I came on in the 90s, by our third year, we won our first championship and a state championship to go along with it, with Billy Blanton at the helm. Goes on to San Diego State and sets numerous records. And we were kind of, we got out in front of people in the 90s. We had creativity on defense. We weren't afraid to, we were zone blitzing in the early 90s, and nobody had answers to a 4-week rush. Nobody knew how to pass pro that. And then, we did well in the 2000s, but there was a little bit of a drop off but how do we were in the finals, I think 7 out of the 9 years in the 90s, and we won 2 national titles. And when I looked at the program at the end of the early 2000s, I said, all right, what do I want to do for the balance of the 2000? This was 2011, and I realized I had to revamp the program. And it wasn't about firing guys, Randy. It was about evaluating myself and evaluating my program. I completely twisted the entire strength program around, and I also instituted a nutrition program. The kids weren't eating right. When you got a kid, buying a full large pizza before a game, you look and go, well, I don't think that's going to do much good. So we started teaching and educating them on life skills with nutrition, a strength program. Then I dove into the youth programs, Randy, and there's where it's at. It's legal to have camps. We took off with 7-on-7, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade teams, and it's legal and I can talk to the parents about the values of a Mater Dei high school education and the benefits of the high school, and get to know me. And then the last thing we did was we committed to social media. We committed to the change. Randy, at that point, I was still thinking it was funny to delete emails. And everybody, what I was saying is I'm a dinosaur. Yeah. I needed to get the brand back up. And again, we were doing good, but I wanted to do better. I wanted to be a national champion again. I wanted to be a dominating program. Our model is we do it from the freshman class up. We get the best talent out of the 7th and 8th grades to come. And you and I know the kids these days are all held back. It is what it is. And I remember early on, I'd say, oh, don't hold your son back. Pretty soon I said, yeah, I would hold him back. He's not ready physically, maturity wise. And we got the top talent, and then we weren't afraid to play freshmen. I've started anywhere from 3 to 4 freshmen every year since about 2015, 2016. Best players play, end of story. yeah, is it ruffle feathers with seniors that have been in the program and parents that, oh, well, we donate a lot of money. It doesn't matter. Best players play. I don't care what color they are, what class they're in. Let's go. And now we've got this pipeline, but I got great coaches that surrounded me, and we developed that talent. And we're smart enough to use rotation in practice and in games. They don't want to sit on the sidelines, Randy. You got to get them action. And that's how we built it. And that's how we've dominated. And there's no secrets. You know who I got most of my information from? Jason Negro at St. John Bosco, because he kind of got a little bit of a jump on me. Then I said, all right, I got to catch you. And I love the fact he's a great man. He's a great football coach. And he said, this is how we do it. And he has his model. I have my model. And, it's Bosco Mater Dei. And we've won some and he's won some. So, but it's been exciting. But again, built in that, Randy, we've lost kids who weren't monarchs. They didn't drink the Kool-Aid. They wanted to screw around in class, or they wanted to be disrespectful. They didn't want to be pride, poison, courage, and represent the brand. So you have to cut bait, but there's enough good ones that you can develop that are good citizens, get their grades right, and move on.
Yeah, Coach, all of those things ring true for me. And one of the things you mentioned is about the coaching staff. You have had a lot of those guys that have been with you for a long time, right?
Yeah. Dave Money retired a couple of years ago, but Dave was my offensive coordinator for over 28 years. And I was fortunate. We just plugged in with Taylor Kelly, and we rode his abilities and expertise for the last 4 or 5 years. Eric Johnson was with me for a multitude of years, considered to be one of the best defensive coordinators in high school football. The new head coach, Frank McManus, was with me for 16 years. It's a great opportunity. I develop coaches from the freshman staff up. I don't have a lot of openings, but when an opening comes, I'm going to look within my staff before I go outside. But you're going to have to be a grinder if you worked for me. Okay. We went 7 days a week, and we never worked just for work. We work for productivity, because I believe this, Randy, the better prepared they are, the better chance you got to win. Okay. If the talent's equal, how are we going to win? Okay, whether that's a couple of trick plays on O, whether that's a new defensive scheme, whether that's me motivating that, whatever it is. Okay, and I love those matches when the talent's equal, because I've always believed this: I'll outcoach you, I'll outcondition you, and then I'll outhit you, or some way we're going to find a way to beat you.
Coach, you hit on another topic that I was going to bring up, was kind of lessons for young coaches. Yeah. And you kind of answered that question, because they've got to be leaders of young men and women at times. But those are great words for young coaches.
There's one more thing for young coaches, okay? We live in a litigious society. Okay, you're looking at an example of what happens. You're vulnerable. You've got to be smart. You've got to watch and monitor everything that's involved with your program. And if you start having success, don't get soft. The more success you have, the bigger target you become. And I would tell young coaches that, they need to have an upper hand. And I'll tell you what, Randy, with NIL coming, and as big as it is now, young coaches better be educated in that. I look at a young coach coming into the game now, and the way I coached in the 90s, I couldn't coach in the last 5 or 10 years that way. But it's still a great game. If you're a young coach, you have to decide, okay, what are you in it for? And I can't tell you that. I mean, in the 90s, I wanted to win, but not win at any cost. But somewhere along the way, Randy, I figured out that it was more about building young men and molding their lives for the future. And that's where I've got my greatest rewards, is when ex-players call back and thank me.
Yeah, that's I totally get you on that, and I appreciate you making that point. The transfer mentality is prevalent in college and in high school. How can we overcome this, or should we embrace it?
No, you're not going to overcome it. Not until the end. Well, there is no NCAA. They're useless. Not until the colleges get a handle on the portal and put restrictions on NIL at their level. In high school, you know, in Southern California, we live in a commuter community, and more people don't own homes, so moving is not hard. You just live with the possibility, but you don't change your beliefs and your values. You know, I told this to a lot of people. When parents come in and say, well, we're thinking about transfer, and I said, okay, think it through. I don't care. I'll help you sign the paperwork to get out, but don't call me back. When you find out the grass isn't greener on the other side, and high school B wasn't quite a solution. And unfortunately, I've had more of those stories than success for kids leaving the program. They're going to find you at Mater Dei if recruiting is what you're worried about. You've seen it. I've given you lists of kids that weren't starters, that were part-time players. And then you'd come out to practice and go, oh, Bruce, I can find a spot for that guy. I can find a spot for that guy. If the parents will listen and be realistic at their son's abilities.
Coach, let's wrap it up. I got one last question for you, because you've covered everything. I didn't even have to ask you questions. You just went through it, and like I expected you would. Well, how much has your faith guided you through all of this?
You know what, Randy? You're a good man for asking that. You know, I think we hide from that. Do I preach to my players? I preach one thing, Randy: prayer. Morning prayer, evening prayer. And I preach the second thing is, don't try to do it alone. Okay. I don't care. I call him God. You can call him a higher power. You can call him whatever you want, but somebody's directing this ship. And the sooner you can realize that you're not alone in the battle, the better off you're going to be. That's my preaching for today. Yeah. Do I believe? Of course I believe. Do I bring faith into my program? Of course I do. We're a Catholic high school, but we have a lot of other denominations. But my message is simple: don't do it alone. Okay, if you can learn to pray and turn it over, you're going to be fine.
I appreciate that, Coach. I feel the same way, and I just want to thank you for joining us. This has been a treat for me. You know, this show will air on Friday at 9 a.m. And folks, go to it, listen to a legend in my mind and a great leader of young men. You can find this show on YouTube, Up on Game Presents. Go to iHeartRadio or the Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on the Up on Game Network, and me on Twitter at rtaylorfbscout. Coach Rollinson, I sure appreciate you. Love you, brother.
Love you, man. Up on game, baby. Let's go.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right,
and
buddy.
We'll see you next week, folks.